Welcome to the Fab Female Podcast, episode 155. Hey there, I'm your host Wendy Hill and I'm a nutritional therapist and expert in female hormone health. I specialise in helping women gain confidence and understanding their bodies, allowing them to shine. This podcast allows me to share the knowledge I've built up, along with bringing you guest experts to support you in your journey. Bethan, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Oh, no, really going to enjoy this one. So I think I just want to kick off, and I know you've got quite an extensive tea history, but perhaps you can just give us a kind of a teapotted journey to where you are today and kind of the key things we're going to have a chat about, or the things you want to talk about today.
Yeah, so I have been kind of working in the world of tea since I was 22. I think officially I'm almost 40 now. So it's been a while, but I got into it through living and working in China. And I studied Chinese at university and kind of made it so that I could write my thesis about Chinese tea, and I've gone from there working for various tea companies, and loved being a tea buyer for other people. I started to look at tea as a support for kind of wellness and women in particular, and that has led me to set up Hot Tea Mama, which I did with my best friend Kate 5 years ago. Almost. And we make tea for women's wellness. So originally just pregnancy, but since then we've developed blends for periods and for perimenopause and menopause as well.
Obviously, tea is a herb in itself.
Yeah.
But when you learnt to blend tea, was that about different types of tea, or was that about tea with herbs?
So my original career, my first kind of job as a tea buyer was at a Chinese tea company because of my background. So it was a huge amount looking, unfortunately for you, at green tea, and, oolong tea and pu'er tea, different kind of specialist Chinese teas. And I actually did a lot of single estate buying rather than blending.
Is it a UK thing? Obviously, in China, they're very tea orientated. So as big tea drinkers, do we just drink the really horrible stuff?
We drink rubbish. Yeah. So I think it's quite shocking. So I did, I didn't mention in my kind of quick synopsis, but I did a tea science degree around, I would have graduated 9 years ago. So I moved back to China, where I'd lived and studied before, but I worked for a tea company over there while studying tea science at an agricultural university. And tea bags don't exist. You know, they are starting to become popular in the kind of millennial age group within urban China. But nobody drinks, tea in tea bags, because we actually drink what is the waste material from making loose leaf tea. So all tea factories, when you go around, they have a big kind of trough underneath the processing machinery, and anything that's caught in the trough, all the dust and the small particles that fall off.
And the insects and things like that as well,
hopefully not. If there are, they'll be filtered off at some point. But it's all cool. And that is what's taken and blended and sold at auction in huge quantities to British tea companies.
No.
Which is kind of a bit shocking. But it's not an exaggeration to say that we drink the tea that is actually swept up from the floor quite often.
I love the fact that you started a company with your best friend. So does she have a background in tea at all, or not? Okay.
No, but she is a bit of a creative genius, I'd say. So
that's nice.
She was a professional ballerina before I met her. Yeah. And we met at university. And she ended up going into marketing and very much within the arts because of her background as a dancer. But she moved to Europe from Australia when she was 20 in order to be a professional ballerina in Denmark. So it's quite an unusual background.
Yeah.
But she had 2 babies in the space of a year.
Gosh.
So a little bit before I had my first daughter, and she ended up asking me a huge amount. She was saying, she loves good wine and she likes coffee a lot. She's Australian, and she was having to restrict that and looking for alternatives to have for both flavour, but also because she got terrible morning sickness. She had quite a traumatic first birth and was trying to prepare in the best way possible for her second, and had read about teas that can kind of help with this. So the more she asked me, she kind of said, why is nobody making, blends for this? I think there's a real potential here. And I thought she was right. So that's why.
So can we talk a little bit about the menopause? Obviously, that's my I'm a female hormone expert, so I get all of these. And I love the fact that you have created different blends for different, because we're very complicated and we have lots of hormones, we have lots of life cycles that kind of happen. But your menopause is kind of one of the newer ones. So what kind of, it sounds like it was very much around kind of fertility and birth and things like that. So what sort of inspired the menopause one?
So it was Jake's aunt, my partner's aunt. So we were visiting, and I was telling her about the company, and I think, how long have we been going? Maybe we've been going for about a year. And she said, you really need to make something for menopause. And at that point, I had a full-time job. I was running the business in the evenings. My son was under 1 and Keris was 3. So I logged it in my head, but didn't really feel able to do much about it. But then, I'm almost 40, Kate's 42. We have a lot of friends who are older than us, and they were starting to become perimenopausal and talking about, not just, I had only ever thought that menopause was hot flushes.
That's all anyone thinks,
As a kid growing up in the 80s, my mum didn't speak about it, but she came home and looked really hot and shut herself away sometimes. And I kind of was just like, okay. But they started to talk about, brain fog and just their memory and their sleep. And maybe it's, start of perimenopause. And at that point, I was like, oh, Roz mentioned this to me a while ago. I just started talking to my suppliers about whether they could get certain ingredients and starting to do the research. And because we have a wonderful community on Instagram that we've grown kind of since we set up the business. I sort of just put a little post on stories saying, are you or anybody menopausal? I'm starting to develop a tea, but I really need people to drink it and tell me what they think about it, how they feel about it. Because again, I was like, well, if you are suffering from hot flushes, you're not going to want a hot tea necessarily. So again, how easy is it to make a tea cold and enjoy it that way? So we ended up, it probably took about 9 months in total which is, to be honest, about the average they all take. But I made a loose leaf blend originally. All our products are whole leaf, but we always put them in bags because it just makes them so much more accessible.
It really does.
To people. And they're great plastic-free compostable bags. Our business is a female-founded, female-run business. I want women to be at the center of what we do. So all our employees at the moment are all female.
Okay.
Our warehouse is owned and run by a wonderful woman, which is very rare in logistics.
Yes. I was in the building trade before I came into this world, so I know how few women there are in that kind of industry.
And I think it's quite it's really important to Kate and I that if we can kind of nurture women, I think again, because we were inspired originally by pregnancy and motherhood, there's a lot of women who leave the workforce because they can't find work that's flexible, even though we all talk about flexible working nowadays. It's not necessarily, even in its new post-COVID format, that friendly for families. And it is women who take the majority of the mental load and the administrative life administration. Whereas I feel like there's this huge pool of incredibly talented, experienced women who just want to work school hours and have a job that genuinely fits into those hours, but that they can be insanely productive and efficient in. And we want to grow the business, to help women like that, but, to benefit, like commercially. I think it's silly that more people aren't looking to that sector of the workforce.
Well, thank you. I've learned some stuff today, which is always great, and it's been lovely to talk to you. And you clearly have such a huge passion. So thank you so much for sharing that knowledge. I've really enjoyed it. So
you're welcome.
Can I just? I'm just going to do my very quick fire round with you, if that's all right, before we go. So, given a choice, you have to choose one. So, would it be jeans or heels or trainers?
Oh, trainers. I hate heels.
Heels. Oh, good. I think we're all getting anti-heels after the lockdown. Pizza or sushi?
Oh, sushi. That's my son's favourite. He loves,
is it?
Loves fish sushi.
And how old is he?
5.
That's brilliant. I love that.
My daughter loves it too, but she's pretty much vegetarian. She likes cucumber and avocado, but Hector and I will just get a massive plate of tuna and salmon. Delicious.
I could just eat that now. And my final question for you tonight is, do you know what you've got for tea?
No, which is shocking.
And although I should say, the funny thing is when I interview Americans, I have to explain that I don't mean a cup of tea, I mean a big meal, and they get all confused, and I didn't have to do that with you. We'll put all the links in, but yeah, definitely at Hot Tea Mama on Instagram if you want to reach out while you're listening to this. So thank you so much.
Thanks, it's been brilliant.
Thank you for watching this excerpt of this week's Fab Female Nutrition podcast. If you'd like to listen to the full episode, then the link is in the notes below.